There's nothing better than getting up 4 a.m. in the morning, grabbing a coffee, jumping in the car, driving off somewhere and just watching the light come up.
Phil, first of all, please tell us about yourself, our viewers. Where do you live? What do you do, etc.?
So, my name is Phil Penman. I've been a photographer since I was 15, so about 27 years now. Originally from England, and I moved to New York in 2000. And shortly after, about 6 months later, I was photographing the 9/11 World Trade Center collapse. And my background is I'm a press photographer, journalist, and I still do it, not as much, but I've become more into street photography over like the last, I'd say, 5 years. And it was kind of it was an escape for me to get away from the day-to-day press photography that I was doing and the celebrity work. So I needed something to kind of pull me away from that. And, you know, I started in the darkroom. My dad's a photographer, so I always had a love of photography. And the problem is I found once it becomes your job, it can become unenjoyable because you're more worried about trying to make money, pay the rent, and less about taking pictures. So like say 8 years ago, I got more back into street photography and just taking pictures for myself and just for the love of it again, to be honest.
Tell me, please, why you choose street photography?
Why street photography?
Yes.
Well, I shoot everything. Like I do commercial work, I do advertising, celebrity portraiture. Street photography, it was just because I was on the street all day, every day. I would be on the streets of New York for like 12 hours a day, and you see everything, and it's just hard not to get caught up in it and the romantic notion of New York City. Like I always wanted to live it. Like I came here in '94, and I always wanted to be here, and it's just like there's this energy about the city and all the people, the characters, and I got drawn to this, and so I would carry 2 cameras in my bag. I had a Canon setup that was for my work, and then I had like a Leica setup, which was for me. So it was my way of separating the two. The Canon was work, this was for me. So that was my way of breaking. So I kind of just fell into it as another way of getting away from my celebrity stuff that I had to do.
And who taught you photography, or you do it yourself?
My dad had a big part in the early days because he was a photographer himself. So I was lucky enough that we had a darkroom in our house, and he kind of he gave me a test. You know, I wanted to be a sports teacher, and you needed to have a backup subject when you go to college. So I had backup with photography. And my dad said, I'll let you do it if you can look through this newspaper and pick what I think is the best picture. And he just wanted to see that I had an eye for a photo first. So I picked the right one. He said, okay, I'll support you. And I had a Western light meter and like an old Nicomac. And I would go around shooting 25 ISO technical pan film. and I would just cycle like 30 miles a day taking pictures. So I kind of taught myself. College, I went to college for like 5 years for photography. The first 2 years, they didn't believe that I did any of my own work. They thought my father was doing everything for me because they never saw me do any work at college. And in the final week, I said, could I use the darkroom? And the lecturer, he said, I have to see this, because he never believed it. And then I did this print, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, so it was you the whole time. I was like, what? You never believed me? And then I studied for like another 2 years in just outside London, learning lighting, shooting 5:4, color transparency, and then I just went straight into work, and I've been working ever since.
Thank you. And what is the most important thing for you in the shot, your perfect shot?
My perfect shot? I'm still waiting to get it. I think we all are. We're always chasing the next one. It's tough because like we have an emotional attachment to a photo, and it may be that we were in the moment when we were taking this picture, but that doesn't necessarily translate to the viewer who is seeing the image. So like I have pictures where I was like, oh, that's incredible. That was my favorite moment, and I'll share it with people, and they're like, I'm not so into it. So it's tough, like having something that appeals to everyone else. And for me, these days I shoot for me, to be honest. I just want to, I've been doing it so long for work that when I shoot, it's for me. And if you like it, then great. But the enjoyment is for me when I'm shooting.
And at the end, Phil, can you give some advice or several advices to young photographer, to young people who just try to do this long, interesting but difficult way to professional photography?
To become a professional photographer is very, very hard now. When I got into it, it was film. Now it's digital. Everyone can buy a camera for not very much money. The learning curve is a lot quicker as well because you can see your mistakes. I would say be prepared to work very, very hard. And you need to, these days, it's not just about photography. It's more these days about marketing, to be honest. Like you have to, don't be afraid to get your work out there and talk about your work. You need to learn many different skills now in order to make it because you're competing with millions and millions of people. You still have to have great work, You could be the best salesperson in the world, but if you don't have the great work, no one's going to remember you 20 years from now, 30 years from now. But be prepared to work very hard. I would suggest learn about marketing, getting your work out there through different forms of social media, working with galleries, learning about producing a book. There's a lot of mistakes you can make with publishing. Publishing is, I did my first book last year, and I learned a lot of lessons from doing that. It's more from a marketing perspective because you won't make any money. Let's put it that way. But I think the key thing would be prepared to work 24/7 and learn everything. Don't say, I'm just going to be a street photographer, and learn everything you can from everybody. And be very careful of who you trust as well. That's what I would say.